Just 2 days till Election Day, and across the country, some 40 million people have already cast their ballot. There were long lines in both North Carolina and in Ohio as early voting came to a close. And our last round of CBS News Battleground Tracker polls before the election show a dead heat in Florida, where the candidates are tied at 45% of the vote. In Ohio, Donald Trump has a 1-point edge over Hillary Clinton, 46% to 45%. We're back now with some more insight into why this race is tightening with CBS News Elections Director Anthony Salvanto, who is in our New York studio. Anthony, it's our last meeting before Election Day. So what are you seeing in these numbers out of Florida and Ohio?
Since we last talked, these races have gotten tighter. Trump now up a point in Ohio. It's even in Florida. And the reason is that he's gotten a few more of those previously unsure voters. There weren't a lot of them to start with, but they've moved toward Donald Trump. And one of the reasons, I think, is that we asked people how they saw each of these candidates relative to this political system. The majority are saying now that they feel like Hillary Clinton is part of what's wrong with politics. But by the same token, they see Donald Trump now as entirely separate from the political system, neither what's wrong nor what's right. And you can imagine that some of those unsure voters on the fence have moved a little bit towards him because of that. Now, whether that's enough to carry him to a win, we'll have to see, and that'll probably, as always, come down to turnout.
And that's why he's been hammering that change message here in the final stretch. In Florida, I want to ask you about Latino voters. The Clinton campaign Democrats very enthusiastic about the early voting by Latinos. Did any of that show up in your numbers?
It does. They are strongly for Hillary Clinton. She will need that in order to win. If you look at the early vote, the ones that have been cast so far, it looks like an uptick in Latino turnout in Florida, larger than it might have been was in 2012. And that's a good sign for her. The tough part for her, though, is what's still out there, what's outstanding, still looks like it's a little bit younger than the rest of the electorate, and that means to get the rest of the coalition that she needs in Florida, she's still going to need a strong turnout come Election Day.
Staying on the idea of early and absentee voting in these states, does it look like in your numbers that Republicans are voting for the Republican candidate and Democrats for the Democrat?
Democrats for the Democrat and Republicans for the Republicans. In fact, one of the things that's bolstering Donald Trump a little bit is that he's gotten some Republicans coming back to him now. You and I all year have been following this story of reluctant Republicans, that he just wasn't getting enough of that base. They're starting to come home. He's ticking up with them in both of these states, and that's helping move the needle for him a little bit.
How about on Tuesday? What are you going to be looking for? What should we pay attention to?
Yeah, it's sort of the map versus momentum in some sense, which is the map still favors, even if narrowly, Hillary Clinton, because you've got all these states that are reliably Democratic that we think are likely going to be in her camp. But the trend line in some of the national polls in a lot of these states has been towards Donald Trump. And so the question is whether or not he can start to either flip some of those Democratic states, and we'll know that fairly early. You'll get an early closing in Virginia. You'll get an 8 o'clock Eastern closing in places like Pennsylvania. Those are states Hillary Clinton all but has to win. If you see those states tight and competitive, they can't be projected early, that could be a sign of a good night for Donald Trump. If Hillary Clinton does hang on, she'll probably do so with the help of Hispanic voters and also with the help of women with college degrees. That's been a big part of her coalition so far. I think you'll see a large gender gap. In fact, if you don't see that large gender gap, given Donald Trump's strength with men, that could be a very good sign for him.
Okay, Anthony, thanks. We'll see you on Tuesday night.
Thanks, John.